Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I have just a few updates I would like to share with y'all. Over the last few years, homelessness has become a frequent topic of conversation. It has evolved into a crisis that we cannot fight alone in this city. Over the last decade, the Ninth Circuit Court rulings have made it nearly impossible to focus our efforts on meaningful solutions to help our unsheltered. The ruling of Martin versus Boise legally prevents us from being able to clean up our parks and public lands unless we have adequate shelter for those living on public lands, setting the precedent that shelter is the solution to homelessness. As a city in the Arctic, our unsheltered need cold weather sheltering. However, the homelessness crisis is a complex issue that requires a complex solution, and the Ninth Circuit Court's decisions have paralyzed our ability to address this crisis in places where it's most severe. Last week, the municipality of Anchorage, at my direction, joined the amicus brief along with 16 other cities across the United States to ask the Supreme Court to nullify the Ninth Circuit Court ruling so cities can effectively address their homelessness crises. I would like to invite now Mario Bird to speak more about the amicus brief and what it means to Anchorage.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. For those of you who aren't entirely familiar with Supreme Court procedure, what we've done is submitted a friend of the court brief asking the U.S. Supreme Court, along with other municipalities, to reconsider the Ninth Circuit rulings. We've had the encouragement of Assemblymember Karen Bronga. I appreciate her reaching out and encouraging our administration also to seek the U.S. Supreme Court to take up this issue. Many of you may be aware other federal circuits don't have the same ruling. And thanks to the legal department headed by Ann Hauser, our administration is joining the International Municipal Lawyers Association to ask the U.S. Supreme Court to again re-engage. When Martin versus Boise was handed down in 2018, there were requests for certiorari that were sent by West Coast cities. In the 5 years since then, I think the list of cities in the Ninth Circuit has grown. And we're happy to join other cities on the West Coast through the International Municipal Lawyers Association to, again, ask them to readdress this issue. The name of the case is Grants Pass, which is a city in Oregon. So we look forward to the U.S. Supreme Court taking a look at this, and we appreciate the encouragement from all sides on this issue, and we'll keep you updated. Thank you.
Thanks, Mario. At tonight's Assembly meeting, I will be introducing a proposed code change along with Assemblyperson Bronga and Assemblyperson Solt that will reinstate failure to appear as a Class B misdemeanor. This change will return our code to pre-SB 91 status to help protect the public and ensure that those who are required to appear before the court are actually held accountable. SB 91 was repealed by the legislature in 2019 and signed into law by the governor after it was determined it did not have the desired result of increased safety for our residents. This code change is good for Anchorage and still retains the discretion of judges, but puts criminals on notice that failure to appear for a court hearing, either in person or via electronic means, is no longer allowed. Now, food security has been an important subject of conversation over many years here in Alaska. Living in Alaska, we rely on everything to be shipped up to us. This has been a concern with the Port of Alaska's critical modernization project. And now we are having this conversation again due to the Albertson and Kroger merger. Yesterday, Senator Sullivan and Senator Murkowski, excuse me, Yesterday, Senator Sullivan and Senator Murkowski expressed their concerns about the merger in a press release, citing not only food insecurity concerns, but the positive negative effects on consumer prices and employment here in Alaska. Tonight, the Assembly is also set to vote on a resolution calling for the Federal Trade Commission to block the merger. I have also heard constituents express their concerns over this issue. I stand with our community, with our Assembly, and with our United States Senators in their concerns about the Albertson Kroger merger. We cannot afford to risk the food security of Alaskans. I hope that the FTC will take our concerns seriously and set high standards as they review the proposed merger. In closing, I would like to provide an update on my meeting with the Federal Transit Administrator, Nuria Fernandez, today. This morning, I was able to discuss Anchorage's public transportation program and provide them with an update on our transportation fleet replacement and discuss some critical support we need from the federal government. This is the first time in history since the department was created in 1964 that an FTA administrator has visited Alaska. I met with her earlier this year in DC, and it was very pleasant meeting again today. We spoke about some specific things. One was there is a $17 million ask we have for the Muldoon Transit Center. And also, we thank them for helping us in their ongoing effort to upgrade our transit fleet. With that, I'll take questions.
Given that it will take some amount of time undetermined for the Supreme Court to either reconsider or refuse to reconsider, are you considering, once the winter plan is finalized and you have new places to put homeless people, abating some of the larger, like officially abating some of those larger?
Yeah, our Housing and Homeless Coordinator, Alexis Johnson, is here, and she can answer those specifics for you. Thanks.
Hi, good morning, Anchorage, or Alexis Johnson, Anchorage Health Department. We do plan, once shelter comes online, for emergency cold weather this winter. October 15th is our supposed open date. We will be posting a zone abatement at 3rd and Ingra. That is the main camp that we are focusing on going into emergency cold weather shelter.
Any plans to expand that to Cuddy Park area?
Yeah, as shelter allows, I think our second park that we're looking at is Chauncey, because there is some construction happening in that area, and then we will look at Cuddy Park, and then lastly Davis.
Mr. Mayor, Zach Hughes with ADN. I'm curious, so you mentioned the Muldoon Transit Center. Are there other federal asks that are out on the line, either through the Infrastructure and Investment and Jobs Act, or any of the other big federal infrastructure programs that the city is waiting on right now, or are down in the pipeline?
Well, for transportation at large, there's certainly our TIFIA asks for the port, and we are exploring all options. Our official policy here is when it comes to port funding, which is the single biggest and most important project that we have, is no stone unturned. And our lobbying firm in DC, Blank Rome, has done a fantastic job. In fact, they're the ones that's got us through the application process for the TIFIA loan, and now our port is eligible for that.
Any other transportation or housing projects that are kind of like in the municipality's profile? I'm just thinking of some of the big projects that are unrolling around the state.
Well, we're definitely in support of our larger construction projects. In Girdwood, we had one that was kind of turned down here several months ago. We're still supporting that, and we're looking for not federal money for those kind of projects, because those are market projects. So that's private investors come in and develop those things. So I can't think of any federal housing projects we are asking for money, to answer your question directly.
Peggy McCormack, Alaska's News Source. The IT director, why did you pursue resignation instead of firing?
Well, because I thought that was the best path forward. There seemed to be a real rush on all this, and Mark Dahl was a 7-year employee of the city. He did a very good job. But in the end, he decided to resign. It was best for the city. It was best for him personally, and so I accepted his resignation.
And thoughts on the solid waste center being used as a low barrier shelter?
Well, again, as Alexis just said, we intend on standing that up not later than the 1st of November, hopefully October 15th, as a cold weather shelter, because it's getting cold out.
And lastly, thoughts on Assembly investigating election complaints and subpoenas?
I don't have a visibility on that. There's some concerns there, I'm told, but they're going to do what they're going to do.
Jeremy Shea, Alaska Public Media.
Yeah.
What's, like, winter's around the corner, what's, like, the status of the city's, snow plowing capacity and readiness for winter this year?
Well, in the budget, I added $1.5 million for snow plowing after our snow issue last December. In January, once we got the snow cleared, I ordered staff to conduct a roundtable. In the military, we would call it an after-action report and find out what we did right, what we did wrong, and certainly what we can do better. And we're going to release, I think, in about a week, our snow removal plan. We went back to 2002 because in 2002 we had a very integrated snowplow plan for the city, and somehow it just kind of got forgotten. And it allowed us a lot of flexibility up to the point of where the mayor can declare an emergency, and that's for snow or for an ice storm. We've been working on that's been a 6 or 7 month project. I got a preliminary brief on it here a few weeks ago, and when we're going to go public with it, and it's going to allow the municipality a lot of flexibility to the compelling employees to stay home in an ice storm or a blizzard, and then it's going to clarify the term contracts we have with snow outside. So what we do is we create contracts that are standing there waiting. If we need you, we will call on you, say a trucking company. That process failed us last winter. We didn't have the ability to haul away all the snow that we got. And this year we're way ahead on that, and we will release that when we release the plan next week, and then we'll publish it on the website to include the interactive map, which shows we get blamed for certain streets not being plowed when they're not our streets, they're state streets. And so we're working with the state DOT on that. And so when you have a complaint on an intersection, and sometimes it's an intersection with the state and then a muni street. And so we just, at the end of the day, government's job is to provide as much information to the taxpayer, to the public that they can. And that's what this plan will also do. But it'll give us the flexibility, and just as a sidebar, there's more coordination in snow removal going to happen downtown. So our retail space folks, they're going to start coming in earlier and removing the snow from their sidewalks, pushing it into the street. So when we come in and remove the snow, it's already gone. The trouble we had in December was we would come through early in the morning, plow our streets, then the sidewalk shovelers would push the snow right into the parking spaces, and it's because they wouldn't show up until 8 or 9 in the morning. Well, now they're going to start showing up earlier, get their shoveling done, put it into the street, then we will come by and remove the snow. So that's just a small example of the coordination. And then if we declare a snow emergency, then the director responsible for snow removal will have much greater control of how we operate the city during the emergency. And that's Paul Van Lanningham. So he's the best at this. So.
Just quick follow-up on the CDL issues were a big bottleneck last year. Is that?
That is a bottleneck, and and I was supposed to bring that up when I talked with Nuria here, the FDA administrator. We brought that up at length. We led with that subject matter. There's the federal government's coming out with a $48 million grant program to help train, because as we know, in the last 18 months or so, 20 months, the price of getting a CDL has gone from $1,500 to over $11,000, and we're really that's a crunch point. And so we're not going to get federal relief on the requirement, but we hope to get federal help on actually paying for the training. And we've looked at changes to our our employment process, such as there used to be a requirement, or when there was a requirement that you had to have a CDL to get the job. Now is what we're looking at doing is being able to hire someone without meeting that requirement, and then we, in a classroom or in a group setting, we provide the CDL to our employees. So.
Down at Third and Ingra, saw this morning that there are signs posted for towing and impounding vehicles that are parked there on the south side, right up against Third Avenue, the RVs,
Mhm.
those impounded vehicles.
Fire truck.
Like fire truck,
Yeah.
city buses. What's the plan for that? Are they going to be towed away, or what's going on with all the material?
APD. I spent a lot of time in homeless camps. APD is taking direct action down there, I'm told, and for the last few weeks I've deliberately stayed away from Third and Ingra at the request of our law enforcement folks. They just wanted that, and so what they're doing down there, I can't speak to that. I don't know if Parks and Recs or APD is not here. So yes, we're going to deal with the vehicles there as we prepare for a zone abatement at Third and Ingra.
Have you been hearing much from constituents, because we've been getting phone calls about the situation with potholes this year? Do you have a plan to repair potholes?
Well, this spring, we set up the hotline. There's a pothole phone number, and we spent a lot of time in the spring with all the snow and the runoff, the pothole things this spring, and we were tracking that. At one point, we were well above the average on pothole repair. Year over year, we were way up on pothole repair because of and we added to the budget for that. We haven't been hearing that, so if you have, it'd be nice. But we track we track our data, and we've not heard that. So, well, thank you very much, everyone.